I don't know about you, but I believe that one of the hardest seasons of faith is when you feel like God didn't actually come through for you. If you've ever felt abandoned, disappointed, or let down by God, I want to share some encouragement and perspective that helped me to walk through those moments. Hi, my name is Nadia, and this is She Builds Again. Over the last 3 to 5 years, I can honestly say that I have been journeying through a very hard season, and slow resentment has built up with God. I was very close to walking away from my faith entirely, and to be honest, I'm rebuilding very cautiously. I'm not doing what I did before and just believing everything that I'm told by a pastor. I'm choosing to believe some things, and other things that don't sit right with my spirit, with my soul, I'm choosing not to touch them at this time until God changes my understanding or perspective. And that's because I really do need to take things at my own pace and start to build from scratch, but on a real solid foundation. And so I wanted to start this episode by talking about what are some of the common ways that people feel disappointed with God. My personal disappointment started when I tried to do the right thing and God didn't show up. So back in 2019, I remember I had gone to all these conferences. I invested in myself heavily, and I was ready to pursue a bigger calling on my life. I felt like I had these skills. I was a journalist by trade. I had my own successful PR and communications company, and I really wanted to use my writing, or continue to use my writing, for God's glory. Prior to this, I had also written in the religion section of the local newspaper where I'm from in Bermuda. And I wanted to take that to the next level. And so fast forward to 2019, I was at a place where I decided to use all of my skills, my passions, my interests for a good cause, also, I thought. And I really wanted to point people to God. I wanted to share these stories of incredible women from all around the world who were doing beautiful, inspiring things for God's glory. And so I started this magazine called The Spiritual Go-Getter. It was an e-magazine, and it was so much fun in the beginning. I was seeing how all the little breadcrumbs would lead me to this point, and I thought that for sure it was by design that I was there and I was supposed to be walking out this purpose. But I did this magazine for 2 years on my own with the help of a VA that I paid for. And I'll be honest, I was so exhausted and drained by the end of it. It was 2 years, and for sure God had opened doors. I got to interview the most incredible women. I remember I interviewed Karis Ferris, who is Priscilla Shire's niece. I got to interview Stephanie Rouse. I got to interview these amazing women with these huge platforms. Some of them were ex-beauty queens, and some of them were doing these really cool things. They had beautiful platforms, and God continued to bless their work. And I was waiting for the same blessing. And every single quarter, I did this magazine. It took me hours and hours of time. I poured all of my heart and soul into it. And I remember by the end of even 2 years in, some of the publications would come out and I'd get 2 new subscribers. And I know it's not about the likes and the followers, but for me, it just felt like a waste of time and energy. It felt like God was not there. He was not in it. I was praying. I was trying to move the needle and have community around this magazine so that all of us would be encouraged to pursue our callings, pursue our biggest dreams. And in the end, I really felt disappointed. I felt like God had let me down. And because of that, I walked away from that magazine. I think I only had 1,000 followers in the end on social media. And you see other people's platforms and they're being blessed so quickly, and mine just didn't move at all. And it was really hard. There were so many times I wanted to give up, even within that 2 years before then. But it got to the point where I was so drained and I was spending so much money and I was making nothing. I just really questioned if this was the right thing. I remember my husband was asking me this question: are you sure this is supposed to be for profit? Are you sure it's not just for ministry and something that you do on the side of your profession? And I thought about that, but I also thought about the amount of time and energy it took. This was before AI, before I could just get articles written in a flash. I seriously felt like I was so depleted by the end of it. And so I was questioning God. I wasn't sure why he had led me down that road. I wasn't sure the purpose of it all, to be honest. And it was just a time where I was also exhausted because of a lot of things that were happening in my personal life. My marriage was in a really shaky place. We were going through so many things with my husband. I honestly felt like I had nothing else to give. I was working a full-time job. I was a mom at this point to a little toddler. And I was also in an environment that was literally draining my energy every single day. And so I think for a season, perhaps maybe the reason and the why behind it was because I needed the passion, I needed the spark to keep me going in a very difficult season. It was during COVID, actually, that I had the magazine. I think in order to keep it going, I would have had to see some kind of growth, even a little bit, like doing it for two people to read or two people to see. I tried so many different things also to tweak what I was doing. I tried a podcast because in case people might want to listen to the interviews instead of reading the articles. And in the end, it was just very hard for me. So I had to give that up and walk away from something that was really draining me. And I think that my faith in God also just took a really huge hit. I had to figure out how to trust him again, how to discern his voice. Like, what does he want from me? Did I do the right thing? Was it the wrong thing? I don't know. And then also, like I said before, sometimes I think we have the wrong motive for doing things. Is it for likes or followers, or is it for just God's glory? And I tried to always put that in perspective, but it was just so much work. Like, I could have done something a lot easier, I think, to also point people to God, volunteering in church or things like that. Another thing I'm going to talk about in this video is what practical steps can you take to keep moving forward in faith while holding space for those emotions. I honestly think that you have to feel them, and as hard as it is, you have to journey through that. You have to feel the disappointment, the grief, the sadness, the loss, and then slowly work your way out of it. And really, if you cling to God in those seasons, and I'll be honest, I did not. I distanced myself from God because I was really struggling. But I know in past seasons, for instance, with the loss of my dad, when I walked through that with God, there was still hope. Whereas when I walked through it on my own, I didn't even realize it, but the resentment and the hard-heartedness had started to really build up and grow. And it took me a long time to even admit that I had become really bitter. I had become really hard-hearted because at the same time going through this disappointment with God, I was also doing a lot of healing on my mindset and other areas of my life, healing for my marriage. And so he was working in some areas, but in relation to that calling and that professional side, I really did feel like I had to just experience that loss. And I would say the few things that worked for me, always journaling. I am such a believer of journaling because it's how I process emotions. It's how I get things out. I think because I love writing. I've always loved writing since I was a kid, but also because it just helps me to make sense of all the thoughts in my head. Sometimes I will literally think and think for weeks or days or hours, but when I journal, it just starts to become clear what it is that is the root of the issue. The other thing that I would say is, in addition to journaling, just having support. If you have any community around you that can continue to pray for you even when you cannot pray for yourself, I think that is so important. And I would highly recommend that you get in a supportive network of people who are like-minded. People are going to send you even just memes that point you back toward God, or whether it's a YouTube video or a short clip or a devotional. Continue to try your best to plug in with that community, tap into that community. Don't walk away from everything and everyone, because it's going to be so much harder to do it on your own if you're isolated. And I think that's also what we learn the enemy wants us to be, is isolated by ourselves so he can attack. And so I don't want to get too religious in terms of tone for this conversation, but I just wanted to share my honest thoughts about how to navigate those feelings, but also how to slowly find your way back. And I think the cool thing, at least about my own journey, that I've learned is that God continues to pursue us even when we're not looking for him, even when we don't want anything to do with him. He really does love us, and he really does want us to have a relationship with him. Even though my relationship with him currently is not where it used to be. I remember just being so on fire for him and just being able to worship and put my arms up and just love with this pure abandon. And I don't know if I have that yet. I think I'm definitely more cautious. more bruised, but I do still believe in him wholeheartedly. I still do want to trust him with my life, and I still am putting my plans in his hands because I have no other choice, to be honest. Like, I have tried things my own way and it just doesn't work out. And so I'm trying to slowly discern his voice, what's next for me, what's next for my life. And I hope that you will do that too if you're in a season of disappointment. Like I said, journal to get clear on what it is that you can learn from whatever situation you're going through, and also to help you to process those feelings, those emotions, but also surround yourself with positive faith-based community and people that can pray for you even when you can't pray for yourself, people that are interceding on your behalf, people that care about your best interest. And I think those things will really help you to start to move forward in faith. And so if you liked this episode, thank you so much for listening. I hope that you will like and subscribe to this channel. We are still new and I'm still learning how to film these videos, but I'm just excited about the opportunity to connect with you and to share my story and to hopefully help you if you're in this season 2 where you are rebuilding but determined to do it with God. Please also leave a comment if you are in the process of beginning again after feeling disappointed. Let me know what is working for you, and I'd love to read and respond.